Hi, I'm Georgette Pierre, and you're listening to Black and Nuanced Podcast, dispelling the idea that all Black people are monoliths, because we're not. My guests and I bring our varying perspectives to pop culture, relationships, and things we go through that we can't always name. Welcome to Black and Nuanced, and shout out to Excitement Radio, always holding me down in Miami, Florida. So I got two guest co-hosts on with me this week. Just expect guest co-hosts on with me moving forward, especially during the Rona edition. I have Stephen Williams and Alana Simone. They are both influencers, social media influencers in their respective fields. And I get all up in their influencer business just to talk about their journey being an influencer, what people may not know, and some other things. Here's our conversation. Hi, I'm Georgette Pierre, and you're listening to Black and Nuanced Podcast, Rona edition, with my guest co-host, Stephen Williams and Alana Simone. This is the influencer episode. And, I was very fortunate to have two influencers that I could actually like, like, yo, Alana, what you doing on Tuesday? Stephen, what's up? And so I appreciate you all. You said what?
It's crazy to think about that.
No, I know. And I wouldn't even kind of get into the whole idea of like influencer, right? Like no one would ever have thought like that would have been a thing. And so, but starting with you, Alana, tell us a little bit about, you and your thing.
My name is Alana Simone at In a 90s Kind of World on YouTube and Instagram. And I am a natural hair influencer. I've had my platform for I want to say I've had it for about 8 years, but I guess 4 years doing the influencing. So I create hair videos, tutorials, foolish videos of me dancing, just a bunch of just fun stuff on my page.
Okay, Stephen, you're next.
So I'm Stephen, also known as American Boy. That's what I go by. I'm a YouTube influencer. My YouTube channel is called American Boy. It's an exploration of the different intersections between language, culture, music, travel, and it's also entirely in Spanish. So that's what I do.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Okay, so one thing I've been struggling with, and the one thing I want to tackle immediately with you all is creating in the times of Rona as an influencer. And so I'll start with you, Stephen, since you just left off. What does it mean to be an influencer on the respective platform that you use?
For me, what it really means is to be a thought leader and someone who is chasing purpose and impact. And that is not something I probably could necessarily always say. I would say that's probably an understanding that I had to grow into when, I started on the platform and, was seeing what was there, was seeing what I could uniquely offer, but also, what I could gain from this, really coming to terms with all of those different things and figuring out how I want to differentiate myself between how other people use the platform. Because like you said, like creating in the time of Rona or being an influencer in the time of Rona, for me, I've gotten so many things have been made so clear just with looking at the influencer space. Every time I open my YouTube feed, every time I open my Instagram, just seeing what different influencers are doing in this time has really allowed me to get even more clear about what it means for me to be an influencer who is purpose driven, who is trying to make an impact in the world.
Right. And so I feel like YouTube and Instagram have different audiences. Alana, what about you? What does it mean to be an influencer on the platform of Instagram?
So for me, it really just means being that relatable person to help, all naturals worldwide. I know that for me, it wasn't really easy, I guess, maneuvering in the natural world, when I started to embrace my natural hair. So, I just want to help out where I can, essentially that's my goal. And I like to keep my content very, very authentic. The person that you see on my Instagram is really me in person. I'm sure you can vouch for that, Georgette.
Yes.
I like to keep my content very upbeat and very positive to let people know, like, you can have fun while still getting your hair done. You know what I mean? Right. And I also try to incorporate everything that I love to do in all of my videos. So dancing is something I've done since I was 3. So I try to incorporate that in all my videos. Music, I love music. So I always try and have fun music in all my videos. And fun fact, my Instagram name is In a 90s Kind of World. And it has been that since I started my Instagram. So back in 2012, I never changed my Instagram name. And that's, just because I have such an infatuation with everything 90s, the clothes, the movies, the shows, the music, everything. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my page.
Every time Living Single comes on at my mom's house, I have to stay up and watch it. Or like,
Hey.
that is my show. In the 90s. If people didn't catch the reference, it's Living Single. So I'm
Right.
like, yes.
If you
Yes.
didn't catch the reference, reevaluate your life.
They might be saying you might not be the demographic we're speaking to. So everyone has what I like to call a holy shit moment, right? I mean, the influencer space, I think it's definitely less, at least to me, I think less than 10 years old. I mean, yes, Twitter came about, I think in 2007, and Instagram came about maybe like a year later, but people weren't making money off of these platforms. Alana, starting with you, when was that holy shit moment for you on making real money from creating content on Instagram?
So for me, of course, when I started out, I didn't realize how much money there really is out there for influencers. You know what I mean? For almost every market. But the moment for me was when the first company ever reached out to me to do a hair video for them. This was 2016. I had just graduated college and I was, putting out a couple of videos here and there. And when they reached out to me, they asked, well, what's your rate? And I'm like, huh? What do you mean
Right.
rate? You want to rate me? I don't, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So, I had to just start doing some research to figure out like, hey, I guess this is an actual thing. Like, let me see what influencers actually charge. So I was able to figure out based off of the numbers that I had at that time and give them a number. And when they agreed, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So so I can make this a thing. Okay, so that was at that point I realized, okay, maybe this might be something I have to kind of see how far I can go with this.
Right. Steven, what about you?
Yeah.
We've had this conversation, and so I know yours is fairly recent.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning, why it's crazy to think about this because, I remember having these conversations with you back in 2014.
Yes.
Like, hey, I kind of want to do this. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know how to do it. And here we are. But I would say probably about midway through 2018, after about a year or year and a half of being on the platform, is when I realized the real potential and sort of where, the content creation industry was going, where the influencer industry was going, and how much money was being poured into it. However, I think it's important to say I've not yet reached the point where I'm seeing that full potential realized in my own business just yet. And that's a conversation that I'm really interested in having because I think there are not enough creators having that conversation. I feel like so much of the influencer space is, trying to showcase as if, because just, everyone knows how much money there is to be made and how much success there is to be had. And I think so many influencers are trying to make it seem like they have that now, or, that it was super easy to get. And, a lot of times it's really not. And so yeah, it's a difficult sort of thing to mitigate at the same time, because a lot of followers doesn't necessarily equal a lot of money.
That's true. Yep, that's true.
And that is a conversation that really needs to be had a bit more often.
I'm glad that you said that because I mean, and Alana, you obviously agreed. The one thing I'm curious about is with people seeing you all in the space that you're in, you all are also still learning as you go along.
Bingo.
And the one thing that and Stephen, throw it back to you real quick because we're talking about YouTube. When I got on YouTube, I wasn't consistent with my with my content, but YouTube keeps moving the goalpost, right? So if you were able
Tell me about it.
YouTube has a space called the YouTube space in New York and LA. So initially, to be able to use their stages and things for free and their sets, you had to have 5,000 subscribers. They changed it to 10,000 subscribers. Then they're changing the way that you can make money and all these other things. What has been some of the things that you have to keep learning in this space that you're in for YouTube specifically, Steven?
YouTube is a really dynamic platform. Like you said, it changes all the time. And it's good that you mentioned the YouTube space, but even beyond that, just the way they distribute your content to your audience, it changes all of the time. So right now, like what I've seen is a lot of YouTube creators are in this space where they have these huge audiences, but the number of views and the engagement rates and percentages aren't what they used to be. And that's literally just because YouTube is sort of picking a fraction of your audience. It'll serve the content to them first. And based on that fraction, that is how they decide whether or not they'll push it to more people. And I get why they do that, because they want to make sure the content is good. They want to make sure it's working. But I think it's limiting a lot of creators because a lot of creators have different pockets of audiences that subscribed for different reasons. Mm-hmm. So, if someone has 250,000 subscribers, that have maybe 3 to 5 different pockets of interests, but you only, service 2 to 10% of their audience every new upload, it kind of really limits what creators are able to do. But I do think that YouTube is trying to get more insight on that because they're doing these research sessions with creators. I've done one already, and I signed up to do another one today, actually. And it looks like the new round of research that they're doing is going to be really focused on essentially what I just talked about: subscribers, how many or what percentage of your audience is being served your content, all of those different things, because I've seen some of the biggest creators on the platform, their views and their engagement just diminish seemingly overnight. Just because, like you said, they keep changing the goalposts. Changing the goalposts in so many different ways, making it, I don't want to say it makes it difficult to stay consistent on the platform, but it makes consistency on YouTube not the most valuable for someone trying to build out a full business with their influencer career. Because at the end of the day, a YouTube channel is a business that, can be broken off into books, into podcasts, into online courses, mastermind groups, different communities, live events, speaking engagements, all these different things. And so, if someone amasses an audience and an email list, but their production efforts on YouTube aren't getting them the return, I just asked the question, how does that change the relationship between YouTube creators and the platform and how they engage with the platform? I don't know, but I think we're going to find out the answer to that very soon.
I absolutely agree with YouTube being owned by Google, with you being on Instagram, Alana, which is owned by Facebook now. What are some things that you're learning? Because remember, when you came on, Instagram Live didn't exist. There were all these things that you couldn't do. We couldn't play music clips. We couldn't add GIFs. GIFs, I think it's GIFs, but whatever. But all these things, that's a real argument too. But all these things exist now as additives. What are you still learning through your platform? And I know Instagram keeps changing their goalposts as well.
So for me, I mean, when I started my Instagram, I was in high school. So it was 2010, 2011. And I think I could be wrong. At the time, I think it was only pictures.
Yep.
I think it was only pictures. There was no video. There was no Instagram stories, like none of that. So it's just interesting to see how, throughout the years, it's just changed so much and they just keep adding more and more things. And, even when they created videos on Instagram, it was only 15-second videos.
Yep.
I don't want to miss it, wasn't it? It was
15 seconds.
Right.
You're right. I forgot
and there
about
were no
that.
stories. And there were no stories.
No stories.
Yeah.
Right. So, so that was a thing. So, I mean, people weren't really making Instagram, a business thing until they started to extend it to the minute videos. And now they have IGTV. So these are just more and more ways for people to just make this a whole business.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, of course, I have my following, but it's still, there's so many websites out there that tell you, based off of this many followers and this is your engagement, this is what you can charge per post.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting because I mean before that I had no idea what I could charge, but yeah, I mean I'm curious to see in the next couple of years, like will Instagram still be a means of conducting business and marketing? You know what I mean? Will it still be a thing? Because I know I'm still learning the whole YouTube world, so of course that that's a whole nother thing because I know Steven, he does YouTube, so
yeah.
he would have a little more insight, but
honestly, I think all of these platforms down the road are just going to become platforms for the influencers to get leads. Because so many people, I'm sure you guys follow Dana Chanel, right? Every single person that follows her, she's trying to get them to not focus on the platforms and build their own thing where people.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Dana Chanel? Oh, you got to follow Dana Chanel. She is an entrepreneur. 26 years old, has gotten her whole family in on this tax. Well, she has several businesses, but their main thing is a tax business. And now they're training people around the country to open up a franchise with their name and license their name and sort of help people do their taxes based on the methodology that they've come up with. And it's been a pretty good business for them.
And she's a Black woman.
And she's a Black woman.
I will throw the link in there for you all to pull from the document. That's dope. I think to add to both of you all, because I felt like this was what was happening last night. And so, Teddy Riley and Babyface versus series by Swiss and Timberland hit over 500,000 people. But I think the platform wasn't even able or prepared for something like that. And so when they tried to add each other back, they couldn't. And so the Versus series actually ended early because they couldn't add each other back due to technical difficulties. What we started thinking about was like, man, why isn't this on a platform that we own, that's not limited, that doesn't put all these restrictions on you? And so with you bringing up Dana Chanel, that would need to be the wave, I think, that we need to go to, especially Black content creators, because we're usually the one that gets the short end of the stick when it comes to a lot of those things. Steven, switching gears real quick. So you and I met working at MTV,
yes.
But you've worked in social media for various networks and TV shows and radio. What are some common mistakes that you all see companies are making and that you've seen companies make without necessarily naming the companies?
Oh, God. Where do I begin? Okay, so I'll tell this story because I just love this story so much. When I was in college, before I was even working, really, I was still interning then. I think I was probably interning for Diddy around this time in college. And there was a network, a really well-known network. I'm sure everyone will know who I'm talking about when I tell the story, but there was a network that decided that they were going to come out with a reality show that was going to be sort of the urban counterpart to their mainstream reality show. And this reality show, their urban counterpart, was supposed to be for the Latin community in the US. And it was basically a story about these young Latinx kids growing up in Washington Heights. And I remember seeing the trailer in college saying, I see what they're trying to do. That's not going to work because, and then I just began to think about all the different cultural reasons and nuances of why that wouldn't work. Just mainly because the Latinx experience in Washington Heights of a young Dominican living in New York City is very different than the general U.S. Latin experience. Say a Latin person, a Mexican who grew up in the Southwest, Texas, Arizona, California, a Cuban or Venezuelan or Dominican who grows up in Miami. Those experiences are really, really different, and you can't pick something as unique as New York City and try to have sort of a blanket representation for all Latin people in the US. It's just not going to work. Long story short, they did the show. It didn't work. Fast forward to a couple years later, I'm working at the same network and I'm in a meeting, and someone who worked on the show says, they mentioned that show. And they were like, yeah, well, that show didn't work and blah, blah, blah. And so then I raised my hand and began to tell them my thoughts on why it didn't work. I was 23 years old at the time. I told them essentially it's the same thing that I just told you. You can't have a blanket representation of one unique community for the entire country. And they all kind of looked at me and tilted their heads and were like, wow, that's exactly what the research said when we got it back after the show failed. And I'm just like, well, why did you need research to tell you that? So I guess the long story short, one of the biggest things I see is them just not being culturally competent. They just sort of have no idea what they're doing. A lot of times they rely on research way too much and not enough on common sense. And a lot of that has to do with just how homogenous the work populations are in these offices. It's one predominant demographic. We all know what it is, and it isn't us, and it isn't other people of color either. And so, you get these glaring, huge cultural gaffes at high levels of corporate America all the time. And the entertainment industry is not immune to that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think what you said was the irony about the homogeny that they put or focused on when it came to the Latin community, but they don't give a fuck when it comes to the Black community. And they're always doing blanket content that they think. You have white people dictating what they think Black people are going to like. And we see that in the day to day. And so I just think it's so interesting that they're willing to listen to when it comes to certain communities, but not willing to listen when it comes to other communities, because they feel like they got it all figured out when it comes to Black people. And that was the purpose of my podcast, right? Black and Nuanced. We are nuanced people. We do not have monolithic views, or we're not monolithic people. With you, Alana, we, without saying the name of the company that we work for, we met at the company that we work for, right?
Yes, we did.
Golly, boy. God. Okay.
Good times.
One time, right. One time for the one time.
Hey.
Okay. So, but you did social media for that company, and similar to what Stephen kind of dealt with. I'm curious on like what was your experience and what was their common misstep or common mistakes or different things that you saw working for them?
So for this particular company, of course, we're not going to speak about it, but I was responsible for doing a lot of the social media content for a lot of these different what are they, stations, if you will. And I guess one of the big mistakes that I realized is that you can't oversaturate these platforms. You know what I mean? For each event, it was like, we need 10 stories, we need 4 posts, we need this many. It was too much. At a certain
point, it wasn't
point,
organic for the audience.
Wasn't organic, and for each post, it had to be a slide of 10 pictures or more. Like it was just at least 10 pictures. Yeah. No. After you left, it got crazy. But so it just became this whole thing, and it literally started to stress me out because at every event now, I'm like, okay, well, where's the 10 pictures? Where am I going to get the 10 pictures from? I got to get the stories. Okay, it just became overwhelming. And for a lot of these events, you don't need all that. People don't care at a certain point. You know what I mean? Like if I'm swiping and it's the same type of pictures and the same type of content, okay, I get it. It's enough, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's another thing that a lot of these companies are just now beginning to understand is that if your content is not actually providing value to people, people are not going to engage with it. And I know everyone sort of in the corporate world thinks, we need to have a social media presence, so just put everything there. But no, there has to be a purpose behind that, because we're in an age where every company, people are putting millions and millions of dollars all over the world trying to get people's attention. We're competing like never before. And you no longer are able to just say, oh, we had this cool event, and hope all of your pictures get lots of likes and lots of retweets and lots of shares. We're not in that world anymore. We're in the world where people are looking to be serviced on social media, whether that's, engaging with, trash entertainment, whether it's comedy, whether it's music, whether it's education, personal development, productivity. People are looking to be serviced, not just to see how dope your event was. Like, that's not what people are there for.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, that is excessive. That's a great point that you made too, Alana, about the just the oversaturation, because I didn't even think about that. And I was actually just before we started recording this, I was because I told myself to take my podcast more seriously. I joined a Black-owned podcast network, and one thing that he was saying was like, I was like, well, how much should I post when it comes to my social media? He was like, well, it really depends on your audience. They may not want to see 1,000 posts about the same episode leading up into the next episode that you're coming out with, right? Like you have to kind of gauge and be mindful of them feeling like you're giving them too much. And so this is for both of you all. Alana, I'll start with you. Why do you think it's being a social media influencer is hard to take seriously? Have you had anyone ever call you out and like, that's not a real job, or kind of try to, downplay it for what you do?
Not me specifically, and I haven't really seen it, but I know that it's a real thing. I know that there are plenty of people out there who don't see this as a job or a career, or, that's not a real thing. I personally take all social media influencers very seriously because, like I said, I am one. But I think one of the reasons why people wouldn't is because a lot of people don't really understand to the degree how much work goes into being an influencer. You know what I mean? It's not, I wake up and I record a video and I post it. No. I spend days trying to come up with content, trying to map out what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. Like it's a job. You know what I mean? They really don't get it in a sense.
Got it.
For me, if someone were to look at my page, they would think, okay, this girl's just a goofy fool. She's just acting a fool. Like, is she really an influencer? Okay. Yeah. She's just having fun.
Right.
But this is my 9-to-5 job. Like, I have a very strict schedule. Sometimes I work all 7 days if I need to. If I have, how many videos I need to record, companies are waiting for their content to be approved. I work all 7 days if I need to. So, but essentially a lot of people don't really understand the work and time that goes into it. So that's why they don't really take it serious.
Right. And so with you recording 7 days, it's essentially because what it seems like too, that you may also bank content. So like you don't have to record every day. You may make enough content to kind of last you for a certain period of time too, right?
Well, correct. So today I actually recorded 3 videos in one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm going to be editing for, I'm going to have some time to edit, but I just try and pack a lot of stuff into every day. If I do my makeup for today, I'm going to try and knock out 2-3 videos. You know what I mean?
So much sense. Makes so much sense.
So I'll just spend all of next week just editing content and just getting that out there. But yeah, I'm very diligent when it comes to that. Like I spent a lot of work behind
That's a lot. You make me want to drink the rest of this red wine just thinking about it. No, because like when Steven said, wow, Steven knows, like when I did Dear Georgette, because he helped me work on it, I was treating it, Alana, like it was a TV production. And the way they do is like they'll shoot a certain amount on, and then there's a certain amount off, and they're prepping for the new season. But that is not how digital works. Like you have to constantly keep posting, and I was just like, Steven, I don't know.
No, and funny enough, it's funny because today or yesterday I was talking to my mom about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna record 3 videos tomorrow, this and that, and I know it's gotten to the point where I know in my house which windows I need to be at what time to get the best lighting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like it's at that point now. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's absolutely a job. It is absolutely a job.
Oh my gosh, Steven, throwing that to you now.
And to piggyback off what she was saying, a lot of people don't realize what it is because everyone is on these platforms.
Yep.
So people have a hard time wrapping their brains around how they can be on the platform and not have a career, but someone else can. They can't really see that connection. But also I've seen it what you were talking about in 2 different ways, people not taking it seriously. So there are the everyday people in your life, family, friends that you come across who don't take it seriously. The best thing you can do there is just not involve those people in what you're doing. You don't need to really tell them about anything that you're doing. Just don't let their energy interact with the energy of what it is that you're doing.
But and 9 times out of 10, sorry to cut you off, 9 times out of 10, they won't even ask because they don't think it's serious. So they won't even ask you,
Correct. Yeah. I remember when I first began to realize this was going to be a thing, and I was trying to, tell my mom about it, and where my head was, I could just see how dead the energy was that I was getting back from her. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm going to have to separate this from you because you don't understand it. And I don't want to mingle that energy with what it is that I'm trying to do. But also once you get in it and you start working with people, reaching out to brands and different businesses and people who want to reach out to you, a lot of people don't take it seriously in the sense that, companies don't take it seriously because they don't really yet understand as well that this is a real business and you can't expect someone to make content for you for $100.
Ooh, right. Talk about tell me something. Woo! Yeah. That was it.
Yeah. And that's a learning curve for a lot of people. And I've been lucky enough to, do a lot of research, and I have a good relationship with Brittany Hennessy, the Black woman who wrote the book on influencer marketing. I've gone to a lot of her seminars and things like that, and she's really candid about what influencers should be charging, what the going rates are, in the industry right now. And most companies are really trying to get work done for free, because most influencers don't know this information either, but a lot of the companies don't know either. And that's the phase that we're coming into. We're just more overall education on the part of everyone to really understand what this is. You can't get content for free. You can't, use influencers like slave labor.
I just looked up her book. Okay, I'm gonna holla at this, Brittany Hennessy. I see this, but no, I mean, I love that it struck a nerve with Alana when you said that, because I am pretty sure, to your point, I think people discount that. It's still, if you are doing videos, video editing is not a menial task
at all.
I outsource editors all the time because I don't have the patience to sit down and want to edit video. Like, I already know how to edit audio, and I already spend hours really piecing certain things together that people may not be like, well, it just sounds fine to me. Well, yeah, because y'all didn't hear the raw footage. Like, there's certain things I took out. I had to line up everyone's audio to make sure it wasn't this, that, and the third. And so it's the same thing with video. But I think, to your point, I think people, with you saying like people wanted to pay $100 or something like that, the one thing that I've learned, and I'm sure y'all are doing this now, was, and Alana and I had this conversation, the one thing that I've definitely started doing is, if I'm going to bring friends on, you have to respect my business because I'm going to respect your business. Or we can nip this in the butt and you just don't hire friends, because a lot of times people feel like they're so cool with you that they don't feel like they should get the going rate of your business. And it's like, no, like you should take this seriously as I'm taking this seriously, because this is now my livelihood.
Correct.
And so, well, okay, so this is a great question. How do you all navigate that? Pa-da-pa. Navigate friends or just people just feeling like, oh yeah, hook me up, Steven, or Alana, you know.
That's the thing. I haven't come across it with friends, but I have come across it, interestingly enough, with my mom.
Oh, okay, mom.
Where like not necessarily influencer stuff like, oh, I need you to, record a video for me.
Yep.
But just, wanting to use my digital 21st century social media marketing sort of expertise in general, and asking for a good amount of my time, taking me away from things that are paying me for free.
Yeah.
When I know you can afford to pay me, and just having the justification being, oh, well, I'm your mother. And it's like, yeah, exactly. For me, at least, it's like, yeah, you're my mother. So you should really see the value in what it is that I'm doing and what I'm trying to build. And you should sow into that value. And let's just say that's not an area that we agree on.
Yeah. I think go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that's it. It's not an area that we necessarily agree on.
I was going to ask the other question that when you said parents, like I feel like sometimes I think parents, because they're the closest to you, may not be the ones to support you. But I feel like it's the opposite case for you, Alana, because your parents are super supportive.
Oh my God, absolutely. So I don't know if you know this, but at first my dad was not on board. He didn't take it serious at all. Yeah. So I was always on Instagram and he's like, I don't understand this whole Instagram thing. Okay, so what? You have to like it, but what if you don't like it? Do you still have to like it? he was like giving me the hardest time. And I'm like, Dad, like I'm trying to do something here. Like, I'm trying to make this a thing. And he wasn't on board until I got my first, I guess, big contract with the company.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, how much money is involved? Hold on, wait. You know what I mean? So it kind of took him back. And then he started to understand and take it seriously. So now him and my mom, they're like my biggest supporters. If I'm recording, oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted your video. Yeah, go. You know what I mean? Like they're like so on board with it, like so supportive, which is really nice, because I know there's some parents who aren't supportive of social media influencers. So
I know. I love that. And so I want to get your thoughts on at least like, in a quick response, how long did it take you all to get to where you were? And what is it that people assume or don't know in regards to this success that you all have had or have experienced thus far on your platforms? Steven, I'll start with you.
How long? I'm still trying to get there.
Yeah, but how many followers do you have?
That's not important.
No, but in perspective, tell me why.
But for real, so I'm at 284,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
Right.
What do you mean you're not there? Hold up. Let me find out.
Because I understand what he means.
Like I said in the beginning, followers don't equal income.
Yeah.
So having lots of followers, especially on a platform that's always moving the goalpost, isn't the number one metric or isn't the number one goal that people should be looking after.
At least on YouTube though, right?
I think across the board, to be honest.
Okay.
I think across the board. Because at the end of the day, we don't control these platforms. What needs to happen is we have to build a process and a system that exists off of these platforms in which we can sustain and make an income. And that is why I love Dana Chanel so much. That's what she talks about so much.
Yeah.
So, for me, what every influencer, in my opinion, should be aiming to do is have all of their platforms that they use, grow them to the extent that they can grow them, keep the engagement high, keep the content consistent and valuable, but provide services that people can buy into that exists off of the platform. Courses, speaking events, different, like, there's so many books, podcasts like you're doing. There's so many different things that people can do. I'm going to offer you up another book recommendation.
Come on
it's
now.
called Entrepreneurial You by a woman by the name of Dory Clark. And she sort of talks about that, like all the different avenues that influencers and people with followings and influence can go into, because at the end of the day, YouTube could close tomorrow. You know, Facebook could sell Instagram to China tomorrow, So we really got to be able to build something that can sustain once these platforms are no longer with us. And, we see platforms go in and out of style every year. Like, look what happened to Vine. When I was working at MTV, we were paying 16-year-olds $75,000 for a 6-second video. That platform no longer exists.
Yep. I agree with that, because we paid an influencer. She was in her damn pajamas. We paid her $20,000 to sit in her room to promote a show that did not last maybe a full season on the network I used to work for. I was just like, this is stupid. But Alana, for you, how long did it take you to get to where you are, and how many followers do you have currently on Instagram?
Well, actually, like I said, I started my Instagram back in 2010, 2011, but I didn't make it my business page until 2016 when I started to make my hair videos. So it's been about 4 years in the making, a little over 4 years. But when I first decided to make videos, I was putting out like multiple videos a week, recording like every other day, just trying to really go hard. Because at that time, 2016, it wasn't really popping like that yet to be an influencer. So I kind of hit it right. I kind of hit it right before. So it's been about 4 years, in the making, but I'm at 200,000 now. I actually just hit 200K.
Congratulations.
April 5th. Thank you.
Hey.
So that was such a huge accomplishment for me, because I've really been putting in work, for years. But, today, like, I'm still always thinking about future videos and like what content I'm going to create next. I'm up till 3 and 4 in the morning, just trying to, finish editing, and this is still fun for me. You know what I mean? Like, when I started it out, like, it was fun. Like, I enjoyed the videos and just being me and being myself. And, even today I can still say, like, this is still fun for me. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, oh, I got to make a video today. Oh, what am I going to, you know what I mean? Like, it's still, I'm excited. I'm excited to get up and record and edit. Like, this is just so much fun for me,
Yeah, it feels like a puzzle, like a really fun puzzle at times.
Yes,
there's always new stuff to learn, new things you got to like take into account. There's something new every single day. So it really is fun, like a puzzle, like a really interesting puzzle.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so last question for this segment before we go into the last one. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about all these damn challenges, y'all? I'm about to fall out of my seat. If I see another damn challenge that pops up, I tried to convince one of my girlfriends. I said she wanted to do Savage and some other ones. I said, sis, please look at the other songs that are coming out now and hop on those challenges. She was like, no, I don't care that they're old. I still want to do them. I said, you know what? Live your best life during Rona. Do whatever makes your heart happy. So what are your thoughts about these challenges on TikTok?
I mean, listen, if y'all like it, I love it. But that's for me, that's not my ministry. It's not.
Yes. Okay. What about you? I know, Alana, you caved and you got a TikTok.
I can't, girl. So I promised myself, I said, listen, I spend too much time on Instagram. I am not making a TikTok. There's no way. When this quarantine started, I was like, you know what? Let me just see. Let me just see what it's about. You know what I mean? I made that TikTok and I'm just up scrolling and I see all these challenges and I've been participating. I'm a fool, so I gotta participate.
Yes.
I have caved every single time. And some of them are so stupid, these challenges, but I'm like, I'm gonna just do it. It's fine. You know what I mean? But I think that they're fun. They are getting, repetitive, they're getting excessive, they're getting a little bit annoying. But, people have nothing else to do. So I think that for the time being, it's going to continue.
Okay, because I was going to say, do you think it's just a quarantine phase? You think it's going to phase out?
That's going to continue.
You think so? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's literally how TikTok built their whole sort of brand, is through these challenges that go viral. And now you have like all of these kids all over again making, thousands and thousands of dollars because they start these challenges and brands want to latch on to them. So I don't think that's going anywhere.
I think I had read Rihanna allegedly had bought a house for I think TikTok creators to build content and things, or real content around her Fenty Beauty brand. I was just everybody was just like, they would love to be, of course, because it's Rihanna. But I was like, that's actually smart, right? Like, go ahead.
No, another trend I'm noticing, because you brought up Rihanna and music, is that is how a lot of these artists are getting their songs to pop. On TikTok. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'll see a TikTok and be like, yo, what's that song? And then I can't find the song on Spotify.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because it'll be like an up-and-coming artist who maybe hasn't necessarily gotten the music on all distribution, but they can get it on TikTok, do a silly dance to it, and then it just moves.
And it just moves. Yeah,
that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, well, because a lot of artists, that was something I had read, they're losing money. They're not making money from live shows. And, a lot of them weren't really putting their money aside for rainy days, because no one could obviously foresee this. And so, to your point, they were saying, like, don't be surprised if you start to see artists pop up in a lot of these spaces to make their money. So
I'm gonna challenge you on what you just said real fast.
Yeah.
The part about no one really saw this. So true. No one saw coronavirus coming.
Right.
However,
right.
If you read any business book, any book about money, business, finances, whatever it is, every single person, if they know what they're talking about, will tell you that there's ebb and flow. Always. It's
every 10 years, something like that, right?
Literally, every business book will tell you that. And then they literally will call out people, not like by name, but they'll call out like really big successful people that everyone knows and sees, people you see all the time living these extravagant lives. And it's like, yes, but like, one, no one is really making as much money as it looks like they're making.
Yep.
And two, like, you really gotta be spending that money responsibly so that it grows. That's not what a lot of people do, but that's what we got to change.
Yeah, I've definitely been changing my financial habits. Okay, so I want to get into this last segment called All of the Things, usually about something personal that happened in the week or something going on in the culture. And so I had mentioned lightly about the Versus series by Timberland and Swiss Beats, but last night, or this is going to be heard on Thursday, but Monday night was a rematch between Teddy Riley and Babyface. And I actually want to kind of get into not necessarily about them, but the whole idea of unpacking criticism of Black art in white spaces. And what I mean by that is the article that I had posted for you all was, this man got dragged. There was this Black journalist, he goes by the name Amir Vera, and he is an associate writer for CNN. So, everybody wants to come to the cookout. Everybody wants to be a part of what's going on. And so last Saturday was the original matchup between Babyface and Teddy Riley. But when we all came in, we were like, Teddy, why do you have a whole fucking band to do this thing that everyone's just been doing on their phones on Instagram? And Babyface was just chilling in the studio. He had just recovered from COVID-19, him and his family. And
Babyface had COVID?
He did.
Wow.
He posted it. So he had just recovered from the Rona, and he's sitting in his studio chilling, bare bones. And then we see Teddy Riley. And so there were technical difficulties where there was echoing and all this other stuff. And so, everyone was joking. There were all these memes, but then you have this Black journalist that writes for CNN, basically saying the headline was basically, oh, why this was an epic failure. And people were just like, that headline was so unnecessary.
CNN is unnecessary.
I used to watch CNN crazy in college, but I wanted, starting with you, Stephen, just kind of getting your thoughts on just us not being able to necessarily criticize Black art or Black art being criticized by us, but in white spaces. White platforms.
For sure. I think there's two sides of this coin.
Yeah.
There's definitely the side of, people of color in general, especially Black people, need to be careful about how we talk about ourselves in those spaces. Because a lot of times, in those platforms, in those major platforms that have, that mass distribution like CNN, that's where so much of the world engages with us and finds out about us, aside from like the music that they listen to or the clothes they wear. So it really is important to be careful about how we present ourselves in those spaces. But also, there's also the element of like, that's the time we're in, where like every corporation and every individual is trying to post the most sort of, sensational thing to get attention. You just see that across the board. And considering the reaction, it worked, people were talking about it on Twitter. Granted, they were furious about it, but I think we also have to keep that part of it in mind, that like it's a business thing, and it's not a business thing that I agree with, but that's what so many people and corporations are doing. And so I think if we want to change that, we really got to look at how we might be upholding that, in our own lives. I think about all the people who were criticizing it, and, rightfully so, criticizing him for doing that. But, I also wonder how many of those people post thirst traps on their Instagram all the time.
Me. Let me stop.
Like doing the same thing.
Right.
And so like we got to stop holding these, corporations or these institutions accountable. These institutions are made up of people who invoke the same behaviors as we do. Right. So that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I mean, Alana, what are your thoughts about that?
No, I definitely agree with Steven. I mean, I feel like a lot of these companies, they post stuff just to get more attention and exposure, you know what I mean, for them. But I'm kind of split in between, everyone's kind of entitled to their own opinion. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. But then also, we should also be uplifting each other in a positive manner.
Yeah,
correct.
You know what I mean? So it's I'm kind of split in between that.
Right.
Everything's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. It's all in the way in which you present your opinion.
Right. But you know what I thought about? So when I read the article, I was like, well, this energy doesn't match the damn title. Like you came real soft and chill.
That's the point. That's
right. Yeah. And I was just like, right. And I understand that, but it was kind of like, my man's like, if you were really, if you were going to give that title, like at least throw some real jabs in the article. Not saying that I think that's right, but I literally read the article and was like, I didn't need to read the article because I was in the room. Like I was at the barbecue. I saw everything that happened at the cookout. And so when I read that, I was just like, womp, womp. And then he came out with another article and I'm just like, my man, I'm not even reading this. Like, it's not that, it's not that serious. But do you all think that we would have had this much criticism, or do you think the criticism would have been worse if he had critiqued or criticized this working for like Essence Magazine, which is Black owned, or Revolt TV or the Root.com? Like, do you think it would have been the same backlash or worse if it was on a Black platform?
No, because I don't think it would have been the same, because again, like I was saying, like the first point I was making, like there's time, place, and platform. There's a time, place, and platform for everything. Is CNN the place for that? Probably not. And that's probably why you got the reaction that you got. Is Black Twitter the time, place, and platform for that type of conversation? Absolutely. We drive the conversation there.
Right.
We drive the conversation on Twitter. We don't drive the conversation on CNN, but every Black person and person of color who works at CNN has an opportunity to show the world who we are and how we are on those platforms. But not everybody thinks that way. And, obviously he's probably a freelance writer. I don't know. I'm, talking out of my ass here, but, I'm sure he has to fall in line with like CNN protocol. He's, competing with lots of, different white journalists who have bigger names and bigger platforms. So I'm sure there's a lot that went into that decision.
Into that, yeah.
That headline. It might not have even been his original headline, We'll never really know.
Oh, that is so true. I didn't even think about that because I forgot I did editorial, and they will change your shit
and not tell you.
And not tell you. That is so true. That's so true. That's so. I totally forgot about that, Alana. It just hit me. Like sometimes you don't have autonomy like you think you do, because there's an editor that comes in behind you, and they'll change your stuff to make punch it up a little bit more without your knowledge, because they don't have to. Like, you're a writer, they're the editor. The editor supersedes everything. They're the ones that have to go behind every writer and make sure it flows and sounds well, but it will also bring traffic to the website. I didn't think about that, Steven.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but I mean, he seemed proud. I felt like that was his title. No shade. But no shade.
I'm sure he was proud because all of y'all clicked on it.
Why do you think that we protect certain Black content or creators over others? Like, prime example, Tyler Perry, right? People were like, oh my gosh, Teddy Riley and Babyface are treasures. We have to protect them. And then everyone's quick to throw Tyler Perry under the bus.
Tyler Perry's different.
Okay, see, this is.
But no, that was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
I think it really just ties back to the whole, idea of this podcast. We're not a monolith. We're very nuanced, and we have different opinions about different people, and the crazy thing is, like, I'm beginning to understand this so much more now that I'm getting back into church, just because in this day and age, more churches are arising or being built or started that have my sensibilities in mind, the way I grew up, the way I perceive the world, that sort of 21st century international, sort of everybody's perspective matters sort of mindset, as opposed to like sort of traditional churches that are very one-dimensional and things of that nature. And Tyler Perry sort of represents that dichotomy for me, in the sense that, like, when I was a kid watching Tyler Perry films, it was like I identified with them so much because of growing up in that experience, but I didn't identify with it at the same time, because in so much of his art, I see sort of the gaps in sort of the generations, or the gaps between, different types of Black people and how different people think. Tyler Perry puts forth, I don't want to call it one dimensional, but he puts forth a very specific portrayal of Black culture. And so many young people, like millennials especially, are sort of moving away from that particular portrayal of who we are, because we just have different experiences. And I think so much of us just want portrayals of us that are more varied. Is really what I'm thinking.
We deserve that. To flip it on its head, Alana, have you ever had your art or your content criticized? And if you have, how have you handled that?
Oh God, I don't want to say like my art never gets criticized, but it's very seldom. I would say I've maybe received maybe 2 or 3 negative comments, or people have something to say about what I post.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, it's a very because that's the type of stuff that I post. It's very positive and uplifting content. The only things that people will say is, oh, so annoying. Oh my God, why is she doing the most? But little do they know that this is how I am on a normal day. It's not doing the most for y'all.
But it's also part of your brand too. So
it is. And how I usually handle it is I'll just either ignore it, or I'll respond with something fun and uplifting anyway. Like, oh, everything's fine. Like, oh, I know, right? So annoying. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just
get them.
Right. Just add along with it. And, people love that. They love that. It's just so I don't take anybody on. Like, I don't take myself too serious. So I'm not going to take this comment so serious. You know what I mean? Like, that's really how I kind of go about handling, like, I guess, the negativity that comes with being, an influencer.
What about you, Steven?
I get criticized pretty frequently. Not like, terrible criticism. It's not like hate mail or anything like that. But the nature of my content, just like Alana, is very positive. It's very uplifting, but it also is a lot of cultural analysis. Yes. And linguistic analysis, which means, people have very strong opinions about these things because it's tied to their identity and tied to their lived experiences. Just to give you a quick example, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is the decolonization of language. In the sense that, why do we prioritize, language as, proper and cultured? And then when we look at people who, don't speak that way, let's take a Cardi B, for example, and people, criticize the way she speaks and try to make, judgment calls about a person or a group of people's character based on how they speak. And that's something I use my content to try to, just do away with. But you still see lots of comments, on the videos like, oh, this is terrible. How could you promote this? People in my country shouldn't speak this way. This is horrible, a horrible way to speak. Only poor, low class people speak that way. And I'm like, so yeah, you see this all the time. But also, it's really important to remember that we see this in different ways across. We see this in different ways in our own culture as well in America when it comes to English and the way people speak English. But that's one of the things that I get a lot. But I just try to really continue to put content forward that sort of does away with that idea that, one type of linguistic communication is better than the other. Because at the end of the day, it's really about being able to communicate. And if people amongst themselves are able to communicate and understand each other, then that's all that really matters. There shouldn't be this sort of hierarchy of language.
And I'll wrap it up with this. I am definitely guilty of that. And my line sister and I have had a conversation about this because she really does the DEI work, diversity, equity, inclusion. And I definitely, and without us realizing it, I would look at a Cardi B or people that misspell words, commonly misspell words, and be like, why don't they know how to spell this or speak this and say that?
Can I answer that question? Can I answer that question?
Well, she would say like the King's English has been the part of the system of whiteness, and we have been taught to as far as like the hierarchy is concerned, how you would say King's English is this, and then what the way Black people speak is now called AAVE. And so when we started breaking that down, I was just like, shit, like in my mind, because I used to get called, you talk white and all this other stuff. And I was just like, there's no such thing in my mind as talking white, talking Black. I used to call it speaking well. But I actually realized like it was deeper than that. And she was helping me unpack that as well. So
the King's English was denied to people of color.
Yes,
like it's
correct.
as simple as that. Correct. It was denied to people of color. So they don't speak the King's English because it was denied to them on purpose. So that one day people in power could look at them and call them stupid.
That's it's just, but I love that you're doing that work, and not to get all deep on y'all, but I just wanted to at least, throw that in there. Cause again, like I definitely came from that perspective when it came to certain things. But my brain didn't necessarily like call Cardi B out, for example, like a Cardi B. It's just the way of how I learned English and how I can spell things just by pronunciations. It just clicked in my mind. Like, wait, she's not saying that properly. Wait, that's not the right subject verb pretense. Right. And then as she and I had a conversation about it, I was just like, oh, shit. Okay, great. Okay, cool. I'm cool. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, what you said, as long as you know how to communicate the way you know how to communicate, that's all that matters. And so I appreciate y'all.
I appreciate you.
Okay, so Steven, hit them up with your social media. How can they find you?
American Boy, all the socials.
How did you luck that down, by the way?
So working at social media at MTV, having those connections. I got in at the right time. They snatched those accounts from me, and here we are.
Can I also shout out, before you say your stuff, Alana, I have to shout out Steve. He also helped me nab Georgette as the Twitter handle. This person was squatting on their handle, and they had strict rules about people squatting on accounts just to try to sell it. And so because I used to do invoicing for Twitter, Steven and I was talking, okay, I said, Steven, okay, so how can I get this Twitter account? He put me in touch with somebody because I was already billing. We made it work. Next day, the Twitter account was mine. And when I tell you, I had so many people trying to hack into my account, Alana, similar to how
still happens to me.
Oh, they were trying to hack my account. I had to put layers on it. And so it died down from when I first got that account several years ago. Girl, they were mad. Oh, they were mad.
Someone offered to pay me once.
I don't know. Y'all can have that. Don't let me come up with Instagram Georgette. Oh, it's a wrap too, but I'm fine with Georgette Pierre. Anywho, go ahead, Alana. How can they find you on social media?
So I am in a 90s kind of world, all spelled correctly, on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. All three.
Thank you so much. Y'all should definitely connect, by the way. So I'll connect.
I just followed her.
Oh, snap. Let me go get on that. Yeah.
Oh man, that was such a delightful conversation with Steven and Alana. I appreciate their time so much. You can catch me on Twitter at Georgette, first name basis, GeorGette, and you can catch me on Instagram at Georgette Pierre. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Black Nuanced Pod. That's Black NUANCED Pod, and you can find it on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Spotify at Black and Nuanced Podcast. You can also email me at blacknuancedpod@gmail.com for any questions, comments, and feedback. Greatly appreciated. Make sure you rate me on any one of your favorite platforms. And until the next episode, peace.